Hi everyone, and thanks for watching my video. Today I'm making this spooky birthday card and sharing a MISTI hack. I'm using this stamp set by Colorado craft company called Haunted House. I apologize in advance for the state of my MISTI. I use it a lot and it gets very dirty. So I'm going to start by putting some black cardstock in my MISTI, and you can see my stamp on the MISTI door. It's very large. The set is 6 by 6. So I'm going to ink it up with some Simon Says Stamp clear embossing ink, and I'm going to really spend some time getting into all the nooks and crannies of this stamp. And you'll see when I flip the MISTI door what I do to make stamping with the MISTI easier. I use a brayer. I just brayer right over the door, use my hand to add some pressure. And here I'm going to ink up one more time just to make sure I got all the lines, especially in the middle of the stamp. I find with big stamps, the center is often the hardest to get all those details. And I just use my brayer again to roll right over the top. I'm going to bring over some black embossing powder and then pour the embossing powder over what I just stamped. Now, I did 2 of these cards at the same time, so sometimes you'll see one, sometimes you'll see the other, just for recording purposes. I did use an anti-static powder tool before stamping, but on black cardstock it's really hard to not have some stray embossing powder. I decided to put a little witch flying by in the sky, so I used this teeny tiny witch flying stamp from this set from Hero Arts, ink that up with the same Simon Says Stamp embossing ink, and stamp that in my sky. I then put some embossing powder on the little witch stamp and flick off the excess. Now I've got my heat tool and I'm taking that directly to my cardstock. I'm not great at figuring out what's going to warp the cardstock. If it gets warped, I just put it under a bunch of books until it flattens out again. It wasn't bad, thankfully, on this one, but you can see how well those lines in the stamp stamped using the brayer with the MISTI. I have my score pal here, and I'm actually going to make this my card base. Normally I wouldn't emboss directly on a card base just because of the warping, but this stamp is so large and such a focal point that I thought that was needed, and I liked that it wraps around to the back of the card. I needed to have a little bit of contrast, especially with my little witch, so I decided to put a moon over her. I'm just using a little post-it note that I used a punch for 1 1/4 circle punch, used some Distress Oxide ink in black soot, and used my Tailored Expressions brushes to put some ink right around that so it looks like a moon in the background. Here I have my sentiment, which I am popping up using the Darice foam tape strips. I used a couple different stamp sets from Lawn Fawn. It's wishing you a spooky Halloween, and I just cut off Halloween and stamped a birthday. That sentiment is the only extra thing that this card needs because the background image is so large and such a focal point. I really wanted to keep it simple, just a couple of things for the eye to focus on. And here's my finished card. Thanks for watching.